I guess that's a good place to start talking about your women's work.
Yeah. Well, okay, just to start out with, I actually think part of the evolution of the empowerment of everyone is for women to find their voice. It's a big thing. And it's only because for centuries the woman's voice has been completely stuffed, right? I think for men the work is a little different. It's a little bit more about dropping into the heart and opening that space. But for women, it's really, like for women, we're scared to be heard. We're scared to be empowered and to be heard in our power. It's deeply frightening because there were consequences to that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty dedicated to that. But my history is with, I've worked with Starhawk. Do you know who she is? She's one of the premier eco-feminist activists on the planet. And she's a master ritualist. That's what she does. She's been my mentor for like 25 years. And so I've been trained as a public ritualist. That's part of what I do. And ritual is a word that really scares people. Ooh, voodoo, and whatever else they think. But ritual is simply, how do we come together and have a meaningful experience that's focused and that actually has purpose, right? So the purpose for, it's kind of like, I think of it as a group prayer, but a prayer in action. Ritual to me is building community through creating sacred environments and sacred experiences for us as community, as groups, right? And it's really simple, and it's really human. Like humans do it naturally. It's only us in the West who are afraid of it. So part of my job on the planet is to bring ritual back in. And so I come from this. I think it's sometimes called eco-feminist training that I've had for 25 years, and we work specifically with many deities, but often working with that divine creative intelligence, sometimes called source, as in the form of the divine feminine. And the reason why is because the patriarchal systems that are set up that really basically rule our planet are not working, right? They're linear. Of course, science and linear thinking and critical thinking is very, very important. Boundaries are important. Classification is important. All the ways that we've had to come from this sort of, we culturally came from this place where there was not differentiation, where there was, maybe superstition or whatever you want to call it, but deep belief systems embedded in us. And we moved through that more linear thinking, and now we're stepping into a way where we're unifying those two pieces, right? So when I start yoga singing, I talk about the science and physics of sound before we even have the experience. So there's a way in which we're coming back through science back to ancient wisdom, right? The ancient rishis knew that everything is connected, everything is vibration, and sound is a physical thing, and you can affect the entire universe by one vibration, which is your sound. Every word you speak has an effect. They knew that. Now science is like, oh yeah, we can measure that now. And now Westerners are like, oh, I'll sing because I know that there's a scientific effect, right? We're coming back to that. Also, what we're coming back to is that sometimes linear thinking, non-intuitive thinking, and some of the patriarchal power over structures that we have, have created systems of disempowerment for most people on the planet. Let's face it, right? The politics of the planet is based on power over the biggest hoarder wins, the biggest, or as Buckminster Fuller said, the history of the world is a history of the pirates of the world. Whoever's strongest and most evil gets the most stuff, and that's how you win, and that's how you empower. What we're talking about with Off the Mat is, how do we empower each other? What does it mean to be in power with each other? What does it mean to make decisions together? What does it mean to have the process be more important than the end result? What does it mean to build community? And that to me is a feminine model, because it's circular. Life goes in cycles, and everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Everything has a birth, a life cycle, and a death. And the more we tap into that, the less afraid we'll be of those cycles. And the divine feminine represents the part of us that's not in control, that's completely in chaos, and that there's beauty in that. Sometimes the feminine is, especially Kali. Kali represents the darkness, the things we fear most: death, dissolution of the ego, letting go, chaos, non-control. That's what yoga teaches us too. And that's the divine feminine. The divine feminine can look like Durga, who's out there with boundaries. It can look like, the great mother who holds us in her arms. It can look like Freya, who's fully in her sexuality. There's so many ways to explore the divine feminine. And frankly, women need role models, right? We need role models of strength and empowerment and beauty and vulnerability. And all of the great divine feminine archetypes really show us that. You know, even when it comes down to like body image, look at the very first sculpted images of the divine feminine, the Venus of Willendorf. Like, it's a different model than what we've got going on now, right? And so, you know, working with women to empower them to just trust those other pieces. And it's hard, you know. I mean, I'm kind of an alpha female, and you know, I have a lot of like this kind of thing, and you know, for me, honestly, trying to work with a different model of living my own life it's challenging. I think it's really challenging, but I also think it's really important. So, you know, I feel like the work that we're doing in Off the Mat, like we co-teach all the time. Everything that we teach, we co-teach. It's not me teaching. We do it together, and we do that to model different versions of what it looks like, and that three alpha females can get along. It's not like I have to be the star. I'm empowered, and you're kind of just slightly beneath me. It's not like that. It's like I'm in my full power, and you're in your full power, and that's great, and you're in your full power, you know. And stuff comes up, brings up stuff, you know, because we're not living in a world that condones that kind of power with. So you know, we're up against it all the time, and we're constantly going, no, we stand for this thing called community, and we stand for this thing called empowering each other and figuring out what the heck that means. And it could, you know, if we extrapolate that out to systems on the planet, it could really shift. And it is. I mean, honestly, a lot of businesses are looking for different ways to do business. They want to bring in some of the spiritual practices. They know that it's more sustainable. They know that they're gonna, you know, if you allow your employees to be a part of the vision of your company, they're gonna have loyalty. That's just how it works. So it's like kind of trying to bring some of the principles of the divine feminine movement, or what's sometimes called the eco-feminist movement, into our everyday lives and really stand for it. And again, it's not condoned, right? What's condoned is competition and power over, and I'm better than you, and my metrics are higher than yours, and it's so counterintuitive to what we're used to.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do, is bring those values back in, and really value the caretakers, and value those who nurture, and value some of the principles of the yoga practice in action.